button.
On the food train on my brother and me, this concept they were making up where there's a train that travels all over America and stops at every major city, and that's where the only place you can get food is this food train. So like running with the bit for like 20 minutes, and Griffin says snack piercer is what he started calling it. I thought it was like that's great.
Did you ever hear about the Amazon Prize truck? Sorry, the Amazon Prime truck, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a ice cream truck that just has random Amazon products, and they sell it out of the truck if you're a Prime member, but they carry very specific things that like people can't get easily, like the mini NES and shit like that.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
What kind of capitalist garbage is that?
And they were joking about a Giant Bomb being just like, the one guy Vinny just freaks out and he's like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's a Nintendo product, not the prize for winning the Running Man. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, what are we doing?
It's called the Amazon Treasure Truck.
That's the Amazon Treasure Truck.
Yeah.
Wow, what a slap in the face.
Hmm.
Fucking hate him.
Like,
Speaking of Amazon and like dystopian futures, do you see that new
got
thing they
vitamins.
have? It seems like the coolest idea, but also the most uncomfortable idea, where Amazon has like a store, like a 7-Eleven equivalent, kind of.
On wheels?
But like a little more uppity. No, it's a store. It's a store. But like in order to go in, you have to have an Amazon account. And it like face scans you when you walks in and figures out who you are. And then you just walk around the store and pick up what you want and walk through like a metal detector essentially. And it'll scan little things they put in all the products and just charge them right to your Amazon account. So there's no cashiers.
oh my God.
But let me get this straight. Amazon built their whole company on the fact that you don't have to go anywhere to get anything.
Oh no, Amazon
You
has
still
a
don't have
bunch
to
of
talk to anyone, I guess.
they have a bunch of storefronts now.
It's like a weird,
Okay.
it's like a weird cyclical thing. Like it's like we talked about, like, oh, you know, like Netflix
you're-
and Hulu are designed to
Yeah.
get rid of
No, it's
cable,
just
but now
cable
there's so
again.
many streaming services, they'll just package them all together, and it's just cable again. It's like
so you're
capitalists
saying-
just find a way to cycle back.
So at some point, these stores are like, we're gonna need some staff, and then,
Yeah.
then it just becomes
And then,
a
like,
department
yeah, and then
store.
Amazon's the department store, and then they're like, wait, you know, we should take this online. And it's like Amazon online.
Oh my God, I want to follow like.
Yep, that's capitalism. Cyclical nightmare of oppression, fucking over and over again.
Oh my God. All right, guys. The setting for our story today is late 2017.
Reddit.
Wait. And all is not right with the Force. And no, I'm not talking about The Last
quit.
Jedi,
I quit.
but rather the other high-profile Star Wars release that season.
Solo.
Which apparently fucked up everything so hard that parent company Disney and then even some governments once again had to come in and say, hey, I'm referring, of course, to EA's Star Wars Battlefront 2, not to be confused with EA Star Wars Battlefront 2,
Without the trademark symbol. This is important.
which came out in 2005.
No, the first one wasn't EA, was it?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It was published by Electronic Arts, wasn't it?
And it has the same. It has EA
No,
in
it's
the.
published by LucasArts.
LucasArts developed it, but then...
No, Pandemic developed it.
Yeah, Pandemic.
Oh,
I could have
fuck.
swore. Are you sure?
Are
It doesn't
you
have the
sure?
EA symbol in it.
All right,
Remember we had them side
Google.
by side on my Xbox,
Yeah.
so we were looking at them. And the only difference
Regardless,
is.
I think they both even had the Roman numerals. Like, they didn't even...
Yeah, I know. They didn't change the fucking thing.
But anyway, that was just to clarify.
I'm still mad though because I just googled Battlefront 2 and that
What
was
did
a
you think
mistake.
was gonna...
For the 2005 video game of the exact same name, see Star Wars Battlefront 2 2005.
I played some today, actually.
Yeah.
of the
the original.
2005 one.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It is good.
Developer Pandemic Studios, publisher LucasArts.
Okay.
Alright.
I knew LucasArts was the
The
studio
PSP
that
version was developed by Savage Entertainment. What a good company name.
What did the Savage do?
Don't they make hoodies for fucking preteen
They
cunts?
created.
I meant boys.
Yeah.
I mean,
They did the PlayStation 3 port of Rock Revolution.
wait, I'm thinking of
Woof.
Supreme. Sorry, Supreme.
No, there's that one guy one asshole on YouTube whose merch line is just the Supreme logo, but it says Savage on it. and he does prank videos, and every time somebody's like, "Why'd you do that to me?" he just rips it off, and it's just this savage. It's the worst.
Jesus.
I hate life.
But anyway, the topic today, the game that we're talking about, this is the much anticipated sequel to the 2015 reboot of 2004's Star Wars Battlefront called Star Wars Battlefront. Fuck all video games, like really.
That's kind of funny. It ties into our cyclical conversation.
Yeah, where this all came in. But I'm sure many of you are already aware, at least of some of the controversy around this one, considering just how loud the backlash was. Honestly, this may have been the worst I have personally ever seen since maybe Mass Effect 3. It's hard to say, and that being another
this was worse than Mass
you think
Effect
so?
3.
Yeah.
Fan lashback.
And that being that
probably.
was also an Electronic Arts release, funny enough. But but so let's find out just why exactly everybody was so fucking pissed, which is what we do best. This is Hot Button. I'm Randall Beatrice. Here as always with Austin Blakesley and Chris Antuano.
I'm hosting today.
Yes. Now, Chris, before you awaken us with your research this fine Sunday afternoon in our beautiful new studio,
Friday. Just pretend like we recorded it and released it in like a second.
Oh yeah.
Hold on, let me do the math. It's Friday, August.
I thought you were gonna call me out that I said awaken us, which was not intentional. I realized that.
Yeah.
But I do have a quick little poll for all of us to kind of launch with. I just genuinely want to know, what was your guys' opinion of Star Wars as a property in 2017 specifically? And were either of you looking forward to the launch of this game?
Okay, I'll go first. I thought that Battlefront 2 was going to be trash because Battlefront 1 was kind of trash.
That's harsh.
A lot of people thought that.
There was some disappointment around that reboot for sure.
But I don't know.
That was
depends what you're talking about, because we'll get to it, but I played the open beta.
Yes, yeah.
That will get referenced in this story. So
I
if
did
you're
as
talking
well.
about the actual launch of the game, I was not excited because I didn't like the beta.
I remember the E3 stuff kind of didn't hit us as hard as it could have.
Yeah. I was excited for the story mode, which
Yeah, me too.
ended up being the worst part. And I was excited for The Last Jedi, which ended up being the best Star Wars movie
That month.
ever.
Why would you do that?
It was the best Star Wars movie released past 2016.
Yeah, it's better than Solo.
There you go.
At this time,
Wait, was Rogue One released in 2016?
Yes.
Never mind. All right, 2017 and on.
I liked Rogue One, I think,
I
more
know,
than
I liked
most
Rogue One better than Last Jedi. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think for me, I don't care. I'm not really a big Star Wars guy. Like, I like Star Wars. I like sci-fi.
Yeah, your
I like
on and off
fantasy.
opinion of Star Wars is actually like fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's just like I'm into it as like a sci-fi concept, but like
Sure.
I don't know. At this point, I'm just like whatever. I don't really care about Battlefront. I don't.
Did you have an experience playing the old ones, the PS2 and Xbox ones?
Yes,
Yeah.
an excessive amount.
Yeah, they were real fun.
We played Battlefront 2 online like a lot.
Yeah.
Like me and my friend were like very high rank, fucking slaughtering
okay.
people. Like we had a lot of fun.
Did
playing
you
that
play
game
the
online.
reboot when it came out?
The first one?
Yeah, the
No.
2015 one.
I
No.
didn't play either of these games until within the
Like a
last
few months
year
ago?
or two. Yeah, well,
They still have people playing?
I guess
Like, community
2018
still?
was probably when I played both of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I recently bought them, which I think a guy bought. Comes up in the
Mm-hmm.
script. I don't remember.
Growing up, Star Wars meant a lot to me. I think I've said this maybe on here before that like Star Wars doesn't really feel like it belongs to me anymore. When you were a kid in like the 90s, Star Wars was one of the first, it was probably the first universe I ever got into, and that's maybe because of the way it was branded. Now every release targeted at a mass audience is branded this way, but when I was younger, the fact that Star Wars was so multimedia was like really cool to me. So it's like the video games and comics and Legos and toys.
That's the only
and
good thing George Lucas ever did was invent.
It's the smartest thing he ever
know.
did. But obviously the prequels happened, and then I grew up and fell out of Star Wars. A lot of us did, even though there were some great fucking Star Wars video games in like the 2000s. Some bad ones too, of course. But Force Awakens kind of brought me back. I'm a pretty like staunch defender of the Force Awakens. I understand it's like people call it like a rehash or a remake or a soft reboot rather of A New Hope, but I saw that much more as passing the torch. Like I think that movie is like funnier and I think like darker and than even some of the older Star Wars movies. Like I love the way it's filmed. I think it's like really well edited. I like the cinematography of it a lot. Like I found the new characters charming. I was like all on board at this time. This was like pre Last Jedi coming out. I was very excited for Last Jedi. We also, like you, I played Battlefront back then. I liked Battlefront a lot. I like the big scale battles. We're also, I think, Battlefield players. And this is like essentially not a reskin.
It's
This
not,
played
though.
different than Battlefield.
Yeah, it
because
does. It's
the newer
faster.
ones play a lot more like Battlefield than the old ones
That's
did.
true, yeah. I mean, the old ones were third person.
You could switch.
You could switch, yeah. You can do that in the new ones too. That's right. But I thought the 2015 reboot was okay. It looked great. And it sounded great.
It was fine. It's disappointing because
It's a little shallow.
It was a lot more like the old Battlefield games, like Battlefield 2.
Yeah.
Instead of like new Battlefield.
Yeah.
Good set pieces and stuff.
Yeah.
We have friends of ours that like got PS4s to play that game. Like there was a lot of anticipation around that game, and it sold really well. Like I don't know, I think it reviewed fine, but because there wasn't a lot to it, people fell off of it. So like the notion of like it's that game, but like more of it was the pitch really behind this. And then we watched E3 together and saw that game, and it seemed fine. And then
let's not get too far ahead. This is all in the story.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's okay.
But yeah, we'll cut all this deeper. I just more wanted to like base what the mood
I
and
like
atmosphere
Star
around this
Wars.
was. Yeah,
I like the original Star Wars. I like Force Awakens.
yeah.
Yeah, that sums
And
it up.
I agree, and I also like the idea of a lot of Star Wars games. And around this time,
Oh, there's a ton of great Star Wars
you
games.
mentioned LucasArts. They were gone by this point. EA had the exclusive deal. They had the license, and they weren't putting out a lot. So, but all right.
Weren't.
I was just thinking, it's like I'm watching Spider-Man and playing Battlefront. That could be one of two different decades.
So yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to jump too far ahead. So where did things first start to seem off for those anxiously waiting to jump into those massive conquest battles?
All right. So, on Sunday, November 12th, 2017,
Year of our Lord.
Reddit user MBM Maverick posts an R Star Wars Battlefront. Quotes, seriously, I paid $80 to have Vader locked? Question mark. All right. Seems like a pretty innocent enough internet bitching, you know?
Yeah.
Shortly after, the EA community team responded to the post. That's the name of their account on Reddit. The intent is to provide players with a sense of pride and accomplishment for unlocking different heroes. As for cost,
I remember this.
we selected initial values based upon data from the open beta and other adjustments made to milestone rewards before launch. Among other things, we're looking at average per-player credit earn rates on a daily basis, and we'll be making constant adjustments to ensure that players have challenges that are compelling, rewarding, and of course, attainable via gameplay. Probably the most laughable part. We appreciate the candid feedback and the passion the community has put forth around the current topics here on Reddit, our forums, and across numerous social media outlets. Our team will continue to make changes and monitor community feedback and update everyone as soon and as often as we can.
And people didn't seem very happy with that response, did they?
No. Within 24 hours, this comment becomes the most downvoted comment in the history of Reddit. 24 hours. And it's currently still sitting atop of the list at number one at negative 683,000 points. Number two on the list is a comment in the Thanos did nothing wrong subreddit where they literally ask people to upvote the post and downvote the comment to maintain balance. It's fucking so dumb.
I was confused by this at first.
Yeah, they're like,
Okay.
upvote the post, downvote this comment, just for balance, because that's Thanos. Shut
Sure.
up.
I still think the
That-
idea behind that subreddit is pretty funny.
Oh, yeah. But that comment stands at negative 88,906,000.
That's not
That's
even-
not
yeah.
even fucking close. And under that one, it's like 60,000, 70,000 area, and they keep
Wow.
going down. So
Still,
nothing even
that
holds
gap,
a
yeah.
torch to 683,000.
It might take
downvotes.
forever for anything. dude.
If you want an entertaining read, I just put in here. Go check out that list of most downvoted comments of all time. It's like archived on Reddit.
Yeah.
Interesting controversies and quite a lot of like heavily downvoted hate speech and weird hate defensive things, which I thought
That's
was pretty
good, yeah.
hopeful.
I kind
for
of want
a
to check
community
that.
like Reddit.
Yeah.
you know, but
I kind of want to check that out now.
you should. I read
Yeah.
through probably almost all of the top like
Do you
10 to
remember
20.
any of like standout ones off
Just
the top
a lot
of your
of
head,
people
or?
just being like very, very racist. Some are deleted. One was about some controversy with a D&D program. Either a D&D program or a D&D app where they had like either shunned a player or called them out or did something weird to them, like the company did, and everybody like turned on the company. I think that was like number 3 or 4 or something.
Okay.
Like a lot of them are worth reading into. It's pretty interesting. Like go check that out. Anyway, this new Reddit world record wasn't by any means the first time EA had angered its fans. That's what we talked about. Obviously, they piss them off all the time. It was, however, part of a recent string of hits that they had taken over the upcoming game based off of the Attack of the Clones movie, Star Wars Battlefront 2.
There it is. Which the first one. Which I do recall it having a clone troopers right on the front cover. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but Attack of the Clones, obviously the worst Star Wars.
God, remember when we rewatched all those, Austin?
Yeah, I've done it too. So.
I like the romance in Attack of the Clones a lot. It's real realistic.
It's not ham-fisted and weird at all.
I want to give the George Lucas Totally Knows Women award or whatever.
All right, so let's rewind a bit from this point and take a look at how 2-time fan-voted worst company in America, Electronic Arts, got gamers riled up and more fired up about Star Wars than that time Phantom Menace and Jar Jar Binks ruined all their childhoods.
George Lucas didn't ruin my childhood. Fucking polio did.
Didn't he beat Monsanto?
Yeah,
and
so that's what's. So I think that
Bank
worst
of
company.
America?
I think that worst
This
company
was fan
poll-
voted. It wasn't
I
like
know.
It
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
and it was 2 years in a row that I think they won. But it is so stupid because, like you were saying, there are. I know Citibank was on
because
there.
real evil corporations are faceless.
Yeah, some Monsanto, yeah, like, and this was post fucking housing market collapse.
Yeah,
and all
they
that
beat out like Bank of America, Monsanto, Comcast.
They're just a
Yeah.
bank. What do you mean?
fucking video game fans.
So I like to.
My Star Wars game ain't right.
Hey, those are our listeners.
Mass Effect,
Sorry.
Mass Effect 3's ending is horrible. Turn around, crunch, on some awful hydrogenated food. Alright, so let me take a minute to preface this entire thing. This story heavily involves, and a lot of the controversies around loot boxes and microtransactions and things of that such, gambling in video games, etc. This is just the story of Battlefront 2. It's just a snapshot in this greater, still ongoing and contentious topic in games, and our discussions are going to be part of a much bigger thing. We're definitely going to do a series on loot boxes
Yes,
and microtransactions. It may be way in the future when the story gets more fleshed out, because every
it's
fucking
still
day
ongoing.
it's still
Yeah,
always
there's
fucking
new
happening.
news. It would be like out of date by the time
Yeah. So that's an ongoing topic, and we'll eventually get to it. So we're going to skirt a little bit of the greater issues here. We'll talk about it, obviously, because it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
But
no, well said. Yeah, we're going to keep it about this game and this launch and what happened there specifically. Otherwise, we would be here all week, and so would all you guys. Yeah.
So, at E3 2017, Star Wars Battlefront 2 is showcased, and after complaints of the first installation, which boasted laughable amount of content, fans weren't looking to get burned again. Just like you said, Austin, not interested.
That was their biggest problem with the first game.
Yeah,
but
it
still,
was felt empty.
Remember, they showed graphs to promote this shit. They're like, the numbers are higher in this game. There were like 8 vehicles before, and now there are 12.
Yeah, that's what happened when you played the beta.
That's funny. Oh, did they really?
When you played the beta, it started with an unskippable movie where it was just like a pie chart, and then the pie chart got bigger and changed to a different color, and they're like, there's like 220% the max in the front. I was like, what? Can I just play as a stormtrooper? I don't want to look at pie graphs.
So, the devs made a deal to discuss this game having a single-player campaign, which is something that players were critical about the first title for not having.
Yeah. Be careful for what you wish for, because that monkey's paw then gave us one of the worst fucking campaigns I've ever played.
Yeah. Something else they boasted was all the DLC will be free.
Yeah.
Joining games like Titanfall and Halo, of course referring to the ones that were out at the time, not like old school Halo.
No
because
season
old
pass.
1, 2, 3 Halo, you had to buy those DLCs.
You did, yeah.
But worth it anyway.
But they were very excitedly on stage being like, we're not like Call of Duty.
Yeah, because all these new titles were kind of following this trend of these free DLC map updates, which is fucking cool. Good for the players. Good for everybody. Loot boxes and microtransactions were the gaming hot button of the year. NBA 2K18 just had a bunch of controversy. Destiny 2, Forza, Shadow of War had like
Even
a big
single-player game.
Yeah, Shadow of War got it a big hit in that. I read a little bit. It's not worth going into, but they basically like had items that could make you like stronger or like beat the game different. But
a lot of people were saying that was the thing that like,
or no, it was a different ending that you could get from some things like that.
I know a lot of people are saying that Shadow of War was the spark that ignited the Battlefront.
And NBA 2K18 was another huge one that had like helped that community because like I know we don't really talk about sports games a lot because it's not really in our like repertoire, but
you're right,
it is a big portion of gamers and also vocal gamers. You know, we don't think sports.
I play NHL.
Okay, yeah, I just meant like we don't usually talk about it that much.
But like EA is the worst of the worst when it comes to this.
I mean, they have all those sports licenses.
If you've ever played a Madden or a FIFA game, that Ultimate Team shit is intrusive.
Was 2017 the year there was no Assassin's Creed? Because that had stuff like that too, but it was single player.
No, there was Assassin's Creed.
So all these had already
Origins.
sparked up a bunch of fan outrage, and once again, discussions of whether this practices gambling in video games were beginning to bubble up too. This rising distaste for the practice was strengthened several times leading up to the release of Battlefront 2, so it was inevitable that when they came out, what they had built would be compounded with all this anger, and the pay-to-win model would piss people off enough that EA would become the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back.
Was the Overwatch conversation around it already kind of started by then? I'm not sure. I could be wrong.
It is around this time because Overwatch and Battlefront both get investigated at the same time.
Yeah, because that's what I thought was crazy because Overwatch was already out for years.
Exactly. It had already been out for,
and like,
almost in a year.
It was 2016. Yeah, spring 2016 was Overwatch. But it was weird because it's like Rocket League and PUBG didn't get like investigated at that time.
PUBG doesn't have the
same systems. It has the
PUBG
keys.
is very similar to CS:GO. Yeah.
Okay.
Rocket League's is very much like Overwatch's, which is surprising because it's all aesthetic, no application. So, in October, the beta for Battlefront 2 comes out, and it's one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen in my life.
Undeniable.
The space battles were incredible. It was like a big sell for me. I imagine most of the money went into this game. The feeling and the look, which good on those devs. They succeeded in making that game fun to play. It was the multiplayer was fun.
Yeah,
sound also.
DICE is still some of the best sound design in the whole business.
They nailed like the musical transitions, and they had like the wipes in there.
Yeah, and all like the late.
And that's something else Star Wars as an IP is known for too. And they have like they got all that archived Star Wars sounds, but then retooled them and remixed them to work. Like it's really incredible.
Cool little fun fact: Empire of Dreams is the best Star Wars movie ever made. That's the documentary about the making of the first three. It came with the DVD box set when they did all the remastered DVD box set.
They show the little models and like everything in there.
It's called Empire of Dreams. I think it's like 3 hours long. It is one of the best documentaries I've ever seen in my life, and it's a complete making of.
Fuck.
It's awesome.
I need to
They
watch
go into
that.
the laser sound effect, and you could do this outside. We can go outside after you want. Electric line cables, like the cables that like anchor telephone poles to the ground. If you just smack one of them, it's the sound of a laser gun from Star Wars. Put your ear up to it and just like tap it with your finger.
I remember the TIE Fighter was like something crazy too, like the whooshing of the like I forget what sounds they put together to
make. Fun fact:
that.
Did you know that the doors in Halo, the ones that go when you open, is the sound of a 1999 Toyota Camry hatchback. The piston that lifts when you lift the trunk door.
That's so good.
That's awesome.
One of the devs had a Camry.
A microphone up to your trunk.
Dude, that's all it takes. A little clip little mics,
what
dude.
a Foley artist. That's
Foley's,
like the Foley's
what a
is
great
like the coolest
job.
thing. But yeah, sorry, DICE got the hard part down. Like that's like they made like
they make a great feeling, fun to play game.
Like,
you know?
and that game like ran well on everything. Like I know that was the year that was also the year the X came out, and I remember that was one of the first games I saw running on your console, Austin, and it was like mind blowing. And
So, however, this fun face was quickly melting away to show the cold skeleton of a capitalist Terminator underneath.
That's pretty good.
Players of the beta noted the return of star cards. These are items that could be equipped in multiplayer that would augment the player or starfighter. Items like a more powerful blaster or a faster engine cooldown, which is important if you're trying to run away from somebody and things like that.
maneuvers.
There's items like shields that like protect you from shit. Like
grenades were a card.
Grenades. And these items had tiers of rarity. There was like normal, blah blah, up and up and up. I think there was like 3 or 4 different tiers.
I remember playing this beta too, and being really confused by this because there was no talk of this before that thing came out, and the 2015 game did not work that way.
No, it did have star cards. I'm pretty sure it did. Yeah.
Maybe it did. I don't know if they worked the same way.
I don't think they worked the same way, but I'm pretty sure they still had.
And also, because I was saying, when we were talking about the sound and look at like that 2015 game looked and played amazing too.
The star cards.
I don't remember it.
The star cards in 1 worked similar to the burn cards in Titanfall.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
Where you just like play them before you spawn, and then like you would just like pick up random tokens around the map to turn into heroes.
Yeah, and that wasn't like that too.
Were they all burnable?
No, they were like it was like a thing you could collect and use. It was almost like building a class from these cards, and they had levels, I think, and maybe you had a cost amount.
They weren't consumable in the same way like the Halo 5 ones were.
No.
Yeah.
Oh wait, yeah, no, they were your class, yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay, that's what
Which is how they worked in 2, but their pitch for 2 was like, you build out your class even more, you just have to collect more star cards to level them up, and then...
Yeah, exactly.
It was not super clear.
No, it was not. Yeah, it's still not. When I was still fucking around with it.
Yeah, you're just like, I don't...
So, these items had the tiers, rarity tiers, and some could clearly give advantage to players using them. And these items were found inside of, you guessed it, loot boxes. Ooh. So, fearful fans assumed that these loot boxes would cost money, like any smart person would, in the eventual game.
Yeah.
And the idea that players could theoretically have an advantage of more rare star cards by paying money was becoming a real concern.
Which they were later kind of proven right.
Yeah,
and
they were absolutely right.
A few days after the beta, on an EA blog, they announced the removal of the rarest star cards from loot boxes. This is after a fan complaining, as you saw in the beginning, the Reddit thing. We hear you over here. You know what I mean?
I wonder what some of the rarest ones were, or what they did.
One of them was some like shield. That's why I mentioned it. It was like some weird shield or some jetpack or something. It was like an insane fucking advantage. They pulled out the rarity, the super rare cards, like the highest rarity ones, and put them to where you had to gain like some weird crafting system to build them, which was used with one of the sub currencies.
I remember combining cards together or breaking them to get
along with some other progression tweaks, it seemed like EA was listening to the early outrage and making changes. So that's cool and promising yet. But now this looming idea of microtransactions having a significant role to play was a growing shadow leading up to release.
Not only that, but these values kept changing during press showings too.
Yeah.
Like at E3, the cost of playing a certain characters would flip around, and it was pretty nefarious. Like whenever they showed the game to influencers and critics and people like that, everything in the game was way cheaper and easier to equip and use.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you could make the argument that things like that should be disabled at those events anyway, since the time is limited and you can't have everyone there like grinding.
Yeah.
But it did present a wrong idea of that product beforehand when it's your job to report on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because EA wasn't going to say otherwise, why would they?
No, of course not.
Yeah, like...
So you said you played the beta. Obviously you and a bunch of other people were like, all right.
Yeah,
the beta
I
had like
played
the first mission of the story. I think I remember playing that and be like, this is not bad. It was just like one mission, but it obviously ended up being like...
I know. Well, because it's like, if you're only seeing that first mission, it plays...
No, I don't think the beta did have any story.
Are you sure? I'm pretty sure it had one of the missions.
It had
playing...
it had a single-player component, but I don't know if it was the campaign.
Okay, maybe it was just like
I think it was like a wave-based thing.
Yeah,
you could play it
was the
split screen,
wave-based
too.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember playing it with John, I think.
All right, so real quick, I found a list of the
Are these
star
similar?
cards from launch day.
Are these the ones that got cut, like some of the...
I don't know if they got cut.
I don't think any got actually physically taken out. I think they moved around the rarities and
they
took the rarest of them instead of putting them in loot boxes. They made them acquirable other ways.
Okay.
So they had ones for each class, but then they had other ones like they're class based, but it's like here's like perfect example. One was called Bounty Hunter. And it was you gain battle points at an increased rate. Battle points were the things, the currency
that you needed to spawn
as like Darth Maul and shit.
Vehicles and heroes.
So
and
if you bought enough of
those,
you could just get that, and then you would always get to Darth Maul before other people.
Yeah.
And there was only a limited number of times.
Yeah,
you could beat Darth
I was going to get into that. That was pretty.
Yeah,
that kind of broke a lot for me.
Improved thermal detonator.
Yeah.
Improved thermal detonator with larger blast radius and shorter recharge time.
So that's just like your grenades are set to, like a cooldown instead of like a
Yeah.
amount. So yeah,
Some of that stuff, man. God, I
the
totally.
engine cooldown for the Starfighter one is apparently a big deal because it
Okay.
changes your literal maneuverability and ability to
totally-
get away from people.
I totally forgot, by the way.
Regenerate health faster is
That's
one.
pretty-
That's the one I
yeah.
was talking about. That's the
Yeah.
super rare
Well,
one,
I
not
remember
the shield.
the one that
regenerate
bothered
health.
me was I remember in the beta they had, I don't know if they had more than one level, but they had one that had aircraft in it, and one of the star cards was to like turn tighter and have like evasive
That's what
maneuvers.
he's talking about, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it was
Yeah.
like,
And it's just like, oh yeah, because you used your engine, like you have like a meter.
Yeah.
To use to,
Yeah.
But like the thing is, cool. All in all, cool concept. Not cool to have them acquirable
By spending
by
money.
a currency advantage.
I mean, it's
you know what I
interesting
mean?
because like Call of Duty is one of the last remaining bastions of a game where you're actually unlocking equipment and weapons and attachments rather than just cosmetic stuff.
Yeah.
But like they still found a way to balance that where like some of the first guns that you get are still
Oh
like
yeah, applicable down the line.
Yeah.
Same thing with Battlefield.
It's bad design though because like if everybody's got
But it didn't bother
if everybody's
people
in a
then,
ship
you know?
but your ship just turns tighter, there needs to be a disadvantage to things like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like, oh, your thermal detonators have a wider range, but your cooldown is increased.
Right.
Not decrease
Yeah.
the cooldown and make them more
And,
powerful.
because that's
like,
because
your
that's
gun
the
shoots
Call of-
longer and it's more accurate.
like that's the Call of Duty thing is they all have stats, so their later guns and earlier guns are
It makes
just as
you
good and
weigh
just as
the
bad
options,
and different. Yeah.
not just go, oh, I'll put the best
By the way,
thing
I
on.
totally fucking forgot that Battlefront 1 had the giant floating tokens.
Yes.
So everybody
Yeah.
would just run for it or camp there so you could spawn as like an ATSD or something. But what was funny is that already goes against the whole thing of Battlefield where there's just like
Yeah, shit everywhere.
Yeah, there's shit everywhere to hop in and out of. But also, like, people didn't respond to that very well in the first game. And then like, all right, we got you. And then it was this instead.
Yeah.
And I remember like the beginning of the game, it would just be people. Like it was,
Oh, there are still those
Yeah.
like floating things in Battlefront 2, though.
oh, were there?
Yeah.
Okay,
like,
I wasn't sure.
That goes back in later.
Okay, but there were things that you could spawn as like, was that just hero shit or because they had different tiers of stuff too. It's like you could be a dark trooper
Yes,
and then
yes,
like Darth
absolutely.
Vader.
Yeah, you could like pick your things.
Yeah,
too.
okay.
All right,
you could
so
be a Chewbacca.
so on
the Chewbacca.
No, he
Hey,
costs
the-
more points.
yeah.
You could be a Chewbacca, but the Chewbacca was double the points.
So
double the
on November 9th, if you had EA Access,
Yeah.
which was just Game Pass, but it had Burnout,
I wish. I don't even know if it did at that time. It might have just
Yeah,
been
it
mad.
does now,
It does
though,
now.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
you could begin playing Battlefield 2 early.
Yeah, they still doing that. It's so hard to
Battlefront
keep
2.
up. with.
Battlefront 2. Yeah, I just wrote BF2
You did
after a
write BF2?
while, so it might
Yo,
happen a
fuck
couple
yeah,
more
BF2.
times. Yeah. You can play it early, and the worst of player fears had come true, like you said.
Yeah.
There were two currencies. Credits, which could be gained by playing the game online naturally, and
I think-
also you could find credits in loot boxes.
I think you could also get some for completing the single player as well.
Yes,
Which they
you-
later changed,
Yeah.
but yeah.
you could get credits for that and
Yeah.
doing milestones, I think. as
Oh,
well.
okay. That's the in-game challenges or
They're
achievements.
dailies.
Yeah.
Oh, they're dailies? Okay.
And
Space credits.
crystals,
Yeah, that's the
which can only be purchased with real money. So both currencies could be used to open loot boxes.
That's where they fucked up. Yeah, like
So why does this suck so bad? Well, let's get into how the game actually works.
Yeah.
These star cards I had mentioned earlier were a core mechanic of the gameplay, and they had a few rules. You could craft new cards or upgrade ones you already had with crafting parts. This was a sub-currency gained by milestones.
That's what I remember,
And
yeah.
also some in loot boxes.
Yeah.
In order to stop players from just crafting the best shit right away, because why wouldn't you? You know, the
Mm-hmm.
more rare cards required you to have a certain overall ranking, which is just your general level ranking that you gain from playing online.
Yeah, because you can get cards that you
Yeah.
can't use yet
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
And
yeah.
a class card level, which was determined by the number of cards you had for that related class.
So confusing. Were there certain
Yes.
cards that only worked on certain classes?
Yes.
That's all of it worked.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So
All of
I'm
them?
gonna hand this over to Heather Alexandra, who's a writer at Kotaku. And she has a quote that pretty much sums it up better than I ever could. Like, I was
Yeah.
going to write one of these on my own, and then when I was reading through this, I was like,
This sums it
is
up, yeah.
This is pretty much as good as it gets. Quote, let's say someone spends $99.99 or $100 for us people who are not assholes, where it's $99.99, for a ton of crystals and opens all of their crates. By the end of that process, they will likely have acquired a few rare cards that grant noticeable bonuses and give them a competitive edge at launch. They will also increase their card levels for their class, removing one of the barriers for crafting upgrades. Throughout that process, they'll also get countless crafting parts to stockpile, so the only thing that prevents them from crafting the best cards is their rank. They'll spend a handful of hours in multiplayer matches, already equipped with better cards than every other player, and quickly increase their rank. If they've planned ahead and have enough crafting parts, they will immediately be able to craft the best cards in the game. In other words, you can quite literally pay money for a statistical advantage in Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Just perfect.
End quote.
Just perfect.
That last line, really.
Yeah.
You can literally pay money for a statistical advantage.
That's the crux of everything, just being like, yes, this is how
That is literally
works.
the crux.
And I assume you also get more, you rewarded more for winning. Like, it's so...
Yeah.
Naturally, you would just keep getting even
More. Rich get richer.
Yeah.
So I found a Polygon article where a guy goes through, he's just kind of doing like I spent $100 and got a bunch of loot crates, and he did like a complete statistical breakdown. You should look at it. It's a lot of just like him being like, I got this, and if he was doing a lot of like figuring out his best value. So most of the article is like an absolute boring math slug where he's just
it's like targeted for people who are looking for that information.
Get this much for this much. Okay. It's very statistical analysis.
Yeah.
But basically, he opens up a bunch of crates and finds out that eventually you hit like a wall of what you can actually get out of it. Kind of like an Overwatch, you know what I mean? You open up and you're like, oh, cool, yellow, purple.
Eventually you're
and it's just like, white, sticker, quote, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, no matter if you play straight or pay, it seems that the game's predatory and unbalanced economy was a downright garbage system that benefited only EA's bank accounts. Furthermore, players were about to get very vocal about another major issue with the game's systems.
Yeah.
So, when you think of Star Wars iconic characters, who do you think of? Besides Jar Jar Binks?
IG-88.
Yeah, IG-88. Is that the long-head robot guy?
Yeah.
Looks like a stovepipe? Yeah.
What's the name of the diaper guy?
What?
The assassin wearing the diaper?
Oh, Dengar? What's his name?
Is it Dengar?
I don't remember.
Dengar, it's a Pokemon.
I think Robot Chicken did its entire sketch is based around that guy. Because if you were into those terrible Star Wars action figures from the 80s, they just made them out of every single character. Like if somebody's on screen and like half cut off for a split second. So wait, Jack Rendar? Fuck, what the fuck is... No, Dash Rendar is the dude from Shadows of the Empire.
Star Wars diaper guy and see if it comes up.
It's literally like an extra wrapped in toilet paper. He's in the same scene as IG-88 too, which makes it even.
And the lizard guy.
Yeah, that's Bosk.
Bosk.
No, Bosk is the dude that Princess Leia was dressed up. I used to know all this shit.
Yeah, what the hell? Look up all the bounty hunters from that scene, even though only one of them
with
matters.
Boba's over there. What did you get?
Dengar.
Wait, I was right.
Yeah.
No, wait.
I love the idea of that scene because it's just like all right, which hero shall we pick? And then it's just like a stick figure, like a guy with like a club, and it's just like you with all your armor.
How about we choose the guy with the most expensive costume? It looks like he's a part of this movie. Not the Dog on Empire, because it's the shit, but that scene is hilarious. Yeah. All these puppets and like a cardboard stand just falls over. Like, oh, shit. All right, sorry. No, I'm not going to interrupt you at all here because I see what's coming ahead on this page, and it's okay. Pretty much the most bullshit part of this entire thing. It's great.
Oh, that's fantastic. We need a good laugh.
Yeah, before you get into this.
So, unlike the first Battlefront, where you had to stumble upon tokens and to unlock these heroes, you know what I mean? It was made a bit easier in Battlefront 2 by reaching a certain point threshold, which is how it was in the original Battlefront 2. You reach a certain point threshold, and then a hero was unlocked.
Yes, because heroes were not in the first game. I don't think
the very first one. I don't remember.
No. So in Battlefront,
special mode.
In Battlefront 1, the original Battlefront 1.
Yeah. 2004's,
which was on the Xbox, not one, but the original Xbox.
Oh my God
damn it! If your team hit a certain point threshold, you could spawn. Depending on what map you were on, you would spawn. So, like if you were on a original trilogy map, it'd be Luke and Vader, and then otherwise it'd be Obi-Wan and Darth Maul.
They're still kind of keeping that consistency,
but you didn't control them in one.
Oh, you didn't. They would just
they
be
were
there.
AI controlled. They would just
okay,
be there.
okay.
And they were also indestructible.
Right.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
nightmare.
Okay, I do remember
Me and
this.
my friends found a way to kill them,
Just push them off the map.
which
or
was
something?
that they had
Glitch 'em?
knockback damage, but they didn't take any health
They
damage.
could get stunned or whatever.
They would get knocked back by grenades, so we would just all pile up, corner them, and then throw grenades at their feet until they bounced over the edge of Cloud City.
That's how I used to defeat the agents in the Matrix games that were
Yeah.
undefeatable. Sorry, no, I said I wouldn't cut you off.
No, it's okay.
But the,
No.
the one thing I always hated so much is in the new Battlefront, when the heroes are in there, they don't have a death animation. They just bow.
They just kneel?
They
Yeah,
kneel. It's so weird. So you they'll finally kill Luke or Vader, and they'll do this Jackie Chan
It
it's
might
so-
actually be that in the original too, because I was playing a Heroes match today, like Heroes
Really?
versus Heroes, which is so much fun in the original. It's like lightsabers flying
Yeah,
everywhere, like 50 of them just flying all over. You
Star
see like
Wars
10
branded.
Vaders like flying
yeah,
around.
it's like some Star Wars branded thing that you can't clip Luke with a TIE fighter and have him ragdoll into the sun or
Yeah,
something.
right?
Yeah.
All right, so like I said, you had to unlock them by reaching a certain point threshold. However, reaching that threshold was only one part of it. You also had to unlock the hero. So,
Oh, right. Even if you had enough credits, it wouldn't matter. Until
heroes were unlocked by those credits we mentioned earlier. And some of the most recognizable and important characters in the Star Wars universe, such as its main characters, Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, fucking Star Wars.
Yeah, who?
They were priced at the highest at 60,000 credits. Now, that number doesn't necessarily mean anything to you unless we know how easy these credits are to acquire. But we know you can get them from loot boxes, which already creates an issue. Players would soon find out that on their own, and then further confirmed by testing of one disgruntled player, that based on the average length of matches and credits acquired by them, it would take close to 40 hours each to unlock the characters.
Jesus.
Not to mention other heroes like Chewie and Leia, who were priced around 40,000 credits.
How much was Wedge Antilles?
Yeah.
The best
How much a
Star Wars character.
stovetop pipe guy?
He might be in the game now for all I know. I don't know.
Like,
I have no idea.
yeah, so 40 hours each to unlock these characters.
Jesus. I also just realized that Star Wars Battlefront 1 came out in 2015, and that was only the original movies, and then 2 came out alongside, around the same time as Last Jedi, and they were very heavily promoting all these, new
Yeah.
people you could play as, too. Yeah.
So players were understandably angry. Besides the heroically soul-crushing grind that would be required just to play some of the most general characters in the franchise, the implication that if you purchased loot boxes and got credits quicker led to the conclusion that this overpricing was a blatant attempt to drive players into purchasing the in-game currency to more quickly access the content that most players thought shouldn't be behind a paywall in the first place, or at the very least, more accessible with your in-game actions.
Yeah.
All right, as I mentioned earlier about that guy who spent the $100 on loot boxes, it didn't seem like even that netted enough to buy heroes under the absurd pricing. He said after all that, he had enough credits to buy a couple of heroes under the newer pricing after they upgraded it. So what?
Man.
You either grind forever or pay, and neither really gives you a sustainable way to gain these heroes. So then why, if not to just squeeze?
You gotta earn it. EA says it'll make you feel feel good about yourself. Be
This
proud.
debacle inspired the post I mentioned at the top of the episode. The I paid $80 and I can't even unlock Vader guy.
Because there was a fucking special edition of the game that had Darth Vader on the cover.
Yeah.
And if you
And
bought
then-
it, you didn't get it.
Yeah, and then they'll add the EA's subsequent response, the most hated Reddit of all time comment, blah, blah, blah. So shortly after, EA lowers the prices of its heroes in response to the backlash. Luke went from 60,000 to 15,000. I think Vader did too. Now obtainable if you spent $100 on loot boxes and a
Only-
measly 15 hours or so to
15
grind.
And that was also at the same time that they lessened the credits that you got for beating the game by 75% too.
Yes, they did it at the exact same time. I didn't
Yeah.
put that in there because I was like, whatever. But you're right. It's true.
Yeah,
it's absolutely
cra-
true.
All right, so they had a bunch of different multiplayer modes, and I think there was one maybe dedicated solely to the heroes. But most of the modes that were the most popular, like Conquest and Assault, required you, I guess, the first game, to obtain a certain amount of in-match points to spawn as them.
Yeah.
Which, considering their strength, would be fine, except every other player was also trying to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So the whole team is racing to play as Vader for a 20-minute round, then one person gets them 15 minutes in, then everyone else has to wait for them to die
Yeah.
till when they eventually are out. like minutes later so they can slam the button like the fucking rat feeder seconds before the match is over, like the game's over. Like here's the donkey video where like he spends the whole match trying to spawn. He like becomes Darth Maul and then it just cuts off. Like it's such a shitty system.
And all that only takes 15 hours to get
to get there in the first place.
And that's the upgrade. Not the original 40 hours.
Wasn't that also the amount that reviewers saw, and then they upped it before the game came out?
So, like, the embargo, like, the game was already reviewed at that point. So, like, because, I mean, and people were already playing it because of EA Access or whatever. Yeah. So it was like, all those prices got switched, and by the time that thing hit the shelves for people like us, it wasn't even the same. Like, I know games change, like, and evolve, but that felt kind of gamey as well. Like, I mean, maybe I'm connecting dots that aren't there, but it almost feels a little premeditated. Like, hey, we're going to get this out to the people that...
it wouldn't surprise me if it was.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a random-ass story smacked right dab in the middle of this whole thing. I'll touch on it a little bit because Detective Jason Schreier was the one
his hat on, his magnifying glass at the ready.
Looked into it, and he wrote an article about it. You should read it. It's called The Curious Case of the EA Game Dev Who Said He Received Death Threats.
Holy fuck, I do remember this. Yes. I couldn't recall the connection when you brought this up yesterday.
Yeah. So, on November 13th, Twitter user BigSean66, with a profile reading Game Dev at EA, tweets, quote, "So I'm up to 7 death threats and over 1,600 individual personal attacks now," quote, or sorry, parentheses, "and yes, for legal reasons I'm keeping track," close parentheses. "And why, you might ask? Because of an unpopular feature in a game," end quote. This was retweeted several hundred times, eventually covered by news outlets such as Yahoo, BBC, USA Today, Vice did an editorial, and CNBC had a headline about it.
I saw a lot of that going around. That story, I mean, just like...
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people rallied to this guy because this is a good cause. No one likes to see a community of people become so heated that they resort to threatening someone over their role in a creative endeavor. So, like, all this... press about it is justified because this is like right in the middle of this. Like, people are just angry. EA's just jerking them around. Pay to win. Fucking, can't have Vader. Grind your life away. Buy loot boxes.
Capitalizing
spend money.
It for who knows?
Yeah, for what? So, Jason Schreier starts looking into this profile and starts to find weird things. Like, this guy just gets involved in weird arguments online. They always bring up their EA employment in odd, semi-unprofessional tweets. So, nothing inflammatory from what I could see. Like, nothing was weirdly racist or anything.
You just mean like it just doesn't seem...
It's just none of it seemed very professional. It all seemed weird. So, besides that odd behavior, there was contradiction. 1 month in a tweet, he stated he had only been working for the company for a few months, and then later, like only like a week or two, or maybe a month later, he was replying to someone else's industry anniversary. Like, they were like, "Oh, it's my 10-year anniversary for whatever game company." He said,
"Couldn't
like,
keep a story straight."
I'm coming up on my 4-year anniversary. This is just shortly after saying he'd only been working there for a few months. So Jason Schreier eventually gets a hold of BigSean66 after reaching out multiple times.
Yeah, people wanted to see what was going on with the other thing because now there's a
a guy's receiving death threats for
he's got a lot of attention
a bunch of this garbage.
Yeah.
So after reaching out for a while, he gets a reply saying that he'd be willing to talk if everything is off the record. So Schreier starts off very sympathetic to receiving the threats. He's like, "Hey, we'll do it off the record." He's like, "Look, I've received death threats myself." He relates, he mentions personal attacks he's received.
He's had to talk to other people about this before.
Yeah.
Too, yeah.
So then he goes on and says, "Hey, I gotta ask this tough question. Do you actually work for EA?"
Fuck.
Because he had already investigated all this weird stuff. Sean never replied again. In fact, the day after, his Twitter profile no longer had any mentions of anything about EA or employment there.
What was his mode? Yeah, because you can just put whatever thing you want on that header bio there. Really,
he was followed by EA employees and like heads and things like that.
That's such a big company. Other people probably assume that he did. Because I don't think legally a company can even stop you from doing that, which is crazy. I saw there was a later case a few years ago where someone was like, "I'm a contract writer for IGN and GameSpot and all this stuff," and people are found out that we can't find any evidence that they published any of your articles because you can just do that. You can type in your But I don't know what he was. Was he a super fan just trying to
no idea, dude. So he digs around some more, checking Facebook and LinkedIn, and puts a bunch of stuff together. Some pictures from another social media out of one of his social medias from the inside of EA offices, and they were actually posted by Visceral Games' Twitter feed months earlier. Like pictures he had of like at work, posted by Visceral Games earlier.
See if he's in the credits of that game.
And apparently, one of the other ones was from the offices they used to bring in focus testers. This leads me to believe this guy was just like a focus tester one time, and it was just like, I work for EA online, and then just people talk like, I work for EA, blah blah blah.
Honestly,
because it makes you cool.
I have met people who have done that, who have participated in those kinds of studies, and then be like, I was a consultant for like,
So he gets like a picture of the guy eventually from other people. So he goes to EA with a name, a photo, and all the info he got he acquired from either digging around his own or from friends and followers of Big Sean, who actually contacted Kotaku after the original article, and were like, hey, we know more about this person. So EA said that no one that they could think of by that likeness works or had ever worked at EA. And then that was the end of it. No one ever found out what the deal was, if he ever worked there, what his reason was.
No one got the phone number for the Burger King that he... No, I'm just
I
kidding.
thought it was a weird, interesting, semi-related story just kind of smacked
nuts.
in the middle of this. Like,
and like you said before, this was in the middle of the shitstorm, and it was only stirring the pot even more. So it was just like...
Because now it's like, oh, you're threatening people over this? Like, is it that, blah, blah, blah?
That became a poster for, like, this is video games in 2017? Where are we? Yeah.
So back to Battlefront 2.
I knew it was going to.
Around this time, the Belgian Gaming Commission begins to look into Battlefront and Overwatch to see if loot boxes constitute as gambling, which they think is bad for minors. I used to play cards and drink rum all the time when I was 14, and I turned out okay besides my alcoholism. So,
how's your anxiety doing?
It's horrible. It's all anxiety thing anyway. So shut up.
What kind of card?
Wait, what's that?
Wait, what kind of cards?
Oh, like poker.
Okay,
like,
I was hoping I didn't know if you were gonna be like, yo,
Magic.
Pokemon, dude. It was
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
So I'm not going to get into this too much because that is a part of the loot box story. I just figured I'd bring it up.
What
it's very on topic.
What did they call loot boxes recently? Do you remember?
Surprise mechanics?
Yeah. Yeah, surprise mechanics.
Was that what it was?
I think it was something like that.
Dumb.
That was their taking a positive spin on the word loot box, because the negative connotation behind.
Surprise! You owe us more money.
Did the loot boxes in Battlefront have a special name? That's almost what I always liked about Overwatch, is it's just straight up called a loot box. But I think like Battlefront probably had some cheeky Star Wars
crates, maybe.
Maybe actually, it probably was a crate.
It's
like a star crate. I don't know. You earned a Vader box.
Buy my star crates. You just go in and there's like a racially, offensive guy like, buy a star crate. I'm a Star Wars character.
Why are you dressed like a cowboy?
That's my favorite thing about Phantom Menace. Still like super racist.
The Middle Eastern. Yeah, that was Watto. Yeah, then drug dealer.
That's just Star Wars. Chinese aliens.
Yeah, I was about to say
aliens.
that was pretty bad. But I think the Nemoidians. What was their
Yeah, that's those.
Yeah, that talked in the thick.
Yeah, the droids.
Which they were they were named. It was like Newt Gunray and somebody. They were blatantly targeting the politician Newt Gingrich, and then I forget the other one's name.
Oh yeah,
it was Viceroy.
Something.
Yeah,
oh my god, I never put that connection together.
I didn't
the only
realize
connection
that
I put together is in the Star Wars, one of the Star Wars Clone Wars cartoons. There are people who look like caricatures of like Jewish people, and they're called the Galactic Banking Clan. And I remember being like, "Holy shit!"
Which animated series is that? Was it the 3D one or the 2D one?
That's like the Samurai Jack one.
Okay, yeah,
which is really good. That's
that
why
was the good
like,
one.
why is this so horrible?
I really want to find out the name of that other character. I know it was Newt Gunray, which was Newt Gingrich, and then there was another one, and he was also blatantly some Republican.
So, on November 16th, hours before the game's official release, DICE GM Oscar Gabrielson posts on an EA blog. It says a lot of things about listening and learning and blah, 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 blah. But most importantly, it says, quote, "We hear you loud and clear, so we're turning off all in-game purchases," end quote.
We couldn't get away with it. We tried. Still, no fucking vision for that game. Like, it's the same shit with so many other titles that have made statements like that. It really just felt like greed. Like, taking advantage of nerds who are willing to pay for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a great article title. I don't know who it was by either. Like, it was on some gaming website, but it was titled, like, EA was so worried about making money, they forgot to make a fun game. Or something like that.
it's a little,
So, when the game launched on the 17th, the ability to purchase crystals, the in-game currency, to be bought with real money would temporarily be turned off. They made a big deal about temporarily. And they say that the ability to purchase them will return later at an unspecified date. This sudden move was sparked just hours before when its announcement when Jimmy Pitaro, chairman of Disney's Consumer Products and Interactive Media Division, called EA and, from what I could tell, forced their hand into removing the controversial currency for purchasing loot boxes because all this bad press was poorly reflecting on the Star Wars IP.
But the funniest part about all this, and I remember Giant Bomb mentioning this too in their podcast around the time it came out, was that like the game was fucked. Like, you can turn off the ability to buy, but when you design a game to force you to spend currency because it's so unfun to play if you don't, and you turn off the currency, then you just have an unfun game that you can't buy your way out of.
What's funny too is they had those physical cards ready to go as well. Like those were pulled before even hitting the shelves. Like, it was fucking crazy. Like,
some of them got out there. People were able to buy them,
and they worked.
Yeah,
like because
they
couldn't. But there were photos from like GameStop employees that got them in a shipment and then were instructed to not put them out. Like, this was all planned. Like,
It's fantastic.
yeah.
So it seems like that dystopian corporation Disney can and will do anything to protect its image of their property. So my hopes for Jar Jar Binks' fleshlight are damned in the future.
I bet that exists. Jar Jar's come up way too many times.
They had that one lollipop where you sucked on his tongue.
Yes, my mom designed that.
Did she really?
Hey, no, all right. So no, she didn't design it. She had to sculpt it. No, she did not design it.
Hey man, whatever you want to
No, so my mom worked for a company that I won't name, that was contracted to make a lot of the merchandise for Star Wars Episode 1 when that was coming out. Is that a picture of it? That's it. Oh my God. No, so we need to go back to my house because it's sitting somewhere in there. It's so bad. So she would get these designs and then have to make the molds of them and then, touch them up and send them back. Sorry, I should not have said design. Like, that was not. But I just remember just like, are you fucking serious? Like, what is this?
All right. Randy was into tongue and Jar Jar Binks when he was a kid or whatever.
I probably tried one. There was a button you pulled that opened his mouth. You could close his mouth over the lollipop to keep it protected for later, and then you would hit the button and open it up so you can suck on his tongue. I think it was like strawberry or cherry flavored. I don't remember.
Tongue flavored.
Listen, they were banking. They were really
Christ.
banking on Jar Jar.
They were. He's the new Ewok. All right.
I need to find that. I want to message her right now and be like, "Yo, do you have that fucking Jar Jar tongue lollipop?" She'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
And you guys all know what you're talking about because I'm definitely putting that in the
thumbnail. That's gonna be in there.
All right, so this is my favorite part. A Lucasfilm spokesman said that they support EA's decision to remove in-game purchases, which is funny because it's like Disney saying, "Yeah, I support the decision that I just told you to make. I own everybody."
Remember when I screamed at you on the phone 20 minutes ago?
Yeah, it's like, make this decision, and then I'll get one of the other people that works for me to go, "I agree with my own decision." The spokesman said, "Star Wars has always been about the fans, and whether it's Battlefront or any Star Wars experience, they come first."
Sure. Which, all of this, by the way, was their fault for two reasons.
Oh, yeah.
So, A, everything we've been talking about this whole time, at some point was previously approved by them in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, at some point in production, Disney signed off on it. And then B, apparently artists at DICE came out later, like post-launch, and said that there weren't many options to monetize as per the pressure from EA due to Disney's strict rules on things like cosmetics. Like, they had an aesthetic to maintain with Star Wars, and they didn't want no silly hats. Like,
Yeah.
which is why all the stuff became stat-based in the first, like, not that that's defending them at all, but still, like, their hands were tied too. So it's
for
just
sure,
like,
for sure. Yeah, and they don't want to Jar Jar Binks lollipop
You're
gun.
like, it's like, listen, you want all the stormtroopers to stay white stormtroopers, and we can't decorate them in any way. What are we supposed to do?
You gotta stay white, man.
It's,
Right? Right?
That's not what.
The bad guy is black.
But no, I criticize them all I want, but like if I had EA breathe down my neck being like, you gotta make this as addicting as possible so people spend the most money.
It's gotta be a platform.
And then Disney's like, but nothing cosmetic. Everybody's gotta look the same, but you have to change the game. It's like, well, I guess we're changing the gameplay then.
Yeah, it's
right?
not like Siege and Overwatch where everybody's running around dressed like pirates and like whatever. Like, you can't.
It doesn't matter. And it's unfortunate. It really is.
I know. Because I'm sure a lot of this stuff, was like after artists and programmers worked really hard to like make the guns feel good and make the lighting beautiful and have all these sound effects like, work really well together. And
it's a fucking shame, dude. It really is. So I'll close it out with this. All the damage had already been done. The players were already burned, so, like we said, no matter what EA did at this point, they had already proved to gamers that they were more interested in getting every dollar out of their games than actually caring about making them. Which is a complete shame, because Battlefront 2 is generally a fun game. It looks spectacular, it plays well, it's a lot of fun. I know that because I just bought both of them for $5 with all their DLC during the Xbox Live Summer Sale. All of those developers who put endless hours of work into this title did an incredible and often thankless job.
That's very true.
And it's not fair for them or the players that the greed-centric policies not only influence the actual development, but shift the opinions of fans that would otherwise appreciate and enjoy this content.
That's well said. This was all the work of Suits.
Yeah.
And I do wonder how long that exclusivity contract with EA is supposed to be. Like, I don't know how long lasts, and if they even regret it with them, because they have not produced many titles since starting the partnership, and those strangely few games that did come out have not particularly reviewed the best. Like, that first Battlefront reboot sold real well, and I was surprised to see that the toxic word of mouth around this actually got so bad out there publicly that it did affect those sales in the long run. Like, it's just crazy.
It's just a shame because it's another example of the few trying to take everything from the many, and then it affected an actual art project. It stirred up a lot of garbage.
And it sucks because if the systems in this game
well said. You should have just kept with what you wrote, you idiot. Sorry, talking to me.
If this game like came out and didn't have a lot of those systems, it probably would have reviewed and sold well, and people would have enjoyed it and had a lot of fun. It sucks that the narrative was this around this game.
I found it. It's a 10-year deal.
10 years.
And it started in 2013.
Okay, all right.
So they have until 2023, and I guarantee you that neither side is going to want to renew this license.
No.
So
because I'm sure that
by then there'll be a good Disney Game Studios project.
Also, very unhappy with how this is playing out
because the communication between the two of them sounds like I think EA was probably real excited to have this, and then instead Disney was like, yo, here's our rules. And then EA's like, I don't know if you know how games are. But then again, I'm not trying to discredit EA because...
No, but it's like we're not talking about some fucking general Disney game, dude.
Yeah.
Like, this has to appeal to a larger market, and it has to have a functional system. It can't just be some fucking... no offense, but... Because people do work on them, but, like, fucking Disney movie games aren't exactly goddamn gameplay masterpieces, dude.
I mean,
so it's like when you're trying to make a real game, the same kind of restrictions just don't always get to apply.
Well, they handle it incorrectly because what they're doing right now, at the time of this recording, obviously. Side note: apparently, the Avengers gameplay that got revealed at E3 behind closed doors,
right?
It leaked. I watched a little bit of it.
How does it look?
It's apparently supposed to be coming out after Gamescom. They're going to show it behind closed doors at Gamescom and then release it to the public.
Okay.
It looks
I assume that's why they were holding back to get direct.
It looks all right. But the thing is, like, the way they're handling the Marvel stuff with video games is how they should handle all their properties. which is just like Insomniac's like, yo, we got an idea for a Spider-Man game, and then
Yes.
they make it. And it's one of the best games on the PS4.
Contract that shit out.
Yeah.
Or license it out, rather. Sorry. Like, because it's... Star Wars is arguably, next to Marvel, the most valuable property.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's like that even Star Wars fans didn't react to this well. Like people who are already sort of ingrained to like consume this stuff and enjoy it. Like, I don't think this game was ever even meant to be targeted at people that are ingrained into games culture as we are.
Well, as shitty as it's gonna sound, like if you're gonna be this evil and monetize every video game this much, there is a tipping point, and EA seems to like be blind to that tipping point.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
I mean,
Overwatch,
this game is a check mark on the Trail of Tears for
Overwatch
EA.
is a good example of that tipping point because, like,
Can you buy loot boxes with real money in Overwatch?
yeah,
Absolutely.
I didn't even know you could do that
I've done
until
it.
recently.
Yeah.
yeah.
I never knew.
But like,
I barely
Overwatch-
open loot boxes.
I did it for events back in the heyday where I was trying to collect everything until I realized it was like a fruitless.
Yeah.
I played that game so much when it first came out. I was like, I'm gonna get everything for my favorite character, and then now
Overwatch
it's like
doesn't
can't keep up.
have anything gameplay related at all.
yes, which that is the way to do it. It's all voice lines and costumes,
And it's still very
sprays.
exploitative of certain people's addictions
Yep.
in order to make money, but it doesn't stop the majority of the people from wanting to play your game.
No.
If you're going to make a multiplayer game and you're going to make it so that some people are just better at the game, and usually the people who are willing to spend money at the game are going to be playing it a lot, and they're going to be better at the game
Yeah, regardless.
already.
It just irks me because you're absolutely right. It didn't have to be fucking monetized. Why couldn't it just be a game that comes out for $60 and star cards are just part of the fucking game that they
I don't
come
know.
in loot boxes, you don't get to buy them. Maybe even star cards aren't part of the fucking game. Build a different system. Like, why did it even have to have microtransactions? It seems like something that's ingrained at EA
Yeah.
specifically, and that's just...
It's funny because like it could have been like Titanfall, which is also an EA published game, and Titanfall did well enough to get a sequel, but like part of my biggest problem with EA as a company is they're not interested in making a success.
And I think...
They're interested in making a phenomenon. Like that's like the only
I
tier
agree.
that
and also I
worth
think
chasing to them.
Respawn has they have a big clout.
Yeah, they have proven themselves in the
So
past.
I think
too,
that
yeah.
explains
somehow-
Titanfall.
But so
I
is
think,
Dice though. Like I mean, maybe not the same, but
Somehow
Dice
Respawn-
I
makes.
think I agree with you, Dice, but I think
Yeah.
Dice is way more under the hand of EA than Respawn
Yes.
is.
Yes.
I mean, they designed
Yeah.
Frostbite, so.
Yeah,
So
and,
I
and
think
they were
Respawn
was just bought
Respawn
by
is
them,
not.
but
Wait, did they own? Does EA own Respawn?
EA,
now?
I believe, does own Respawn. Do they now? Oh.
No, maybe they just published Titanfall.
I think
They published
I think they
Titanfall 1
bought
and
them.
2 and Apex and the Fallen Order, the Jedi
They
Fallen
might,
Order.
they
So
might.
I don't. Maybe it's a second party thing. I don't know.
Well,
what
either
that
way, look at
partnership
how they
is.
did BioWare. They let them make what they wanted
That's
to.
true. Yeah,
You know?
but at the same time,
No, they didn't.
they don't. They don't own
I was talking
Respawn.
about. I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you're saying they didn't let them make what they
BioWare.
wanted to?
No, that's why Anthem sucks.
And
Okay.
yeah.
I forgot about it.
But-
God, I forgot about
Yeah,
that. I
we'll
was
do
talking
an
about
Anthem
Andromeda.
Yeah, but and also that
Yes, by the way.
Respawn games don't use
Respawn is owned by.
EA.
Okay, but
Yeah,
also
okay.
once again, just cloud. I think Dice is a lot more under the umbrella, at
Yes.
least a lot more heavily. And I think
I mean, you mentioned Anthem. The thing about Anthem that hurt them really bad, and we'll probably get into it at some point, was that they were forced to use the engine that Dice helped.
yeah,
Great,
that is what hurt that
yeah.
game. Like,
But Respawn doesn't have to, which is weird.
Yeah.
Like Titanfall and Apex don't.
that's a shame. We
use,
can't. We should
Prime,
maybe we should
whatever.
do an Anthem episode. I don't know. That Anthem article is
Or
dense.
Frostbite.
That really good one.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
dense,
there's a lot
but
in
it's
there.
still like a really good read.
Also, I like your little ending part here. Also, I think you should read it.
I wasn't sure because I was going on like an anti-capitalist tirade while I was
but
writing
it's
this.
a good.
So like,
I think it's a good.
I
thing.
wrote it, but a little
I'm actually
extension.
looking at this more positively, I think, than you were.
I just wrote a little tack on that this whole process unfairly turns gamers and devs against each other when they just want to make content for and play content by each other. Once again, another example of how a few at the top far too often manipulate and disrupt those below them for personal gain.
Yeah, and my positive spin on it, because obviously by itself is is kind of grim. But is that when this stuff breaks, when the facade falls down, then it's like you hope to see improvement. Like it's just because at the end of the day, even though EA is a business and needs to make money, if this didn't work, it means that something has to change, and maybe it will change for the better.
Yeah.
So
If their wallet, but the only thing that makes me think now is that they just consistently keep doing
I know.
this.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying.
Yeah.
That graveyard is pretty immense. By then
Well,
at this point.
hopefully, I mean, Jedi Fallen Order, I don't think is loaded with microtransactions. And maybe
Well,
that'll...
no. Now the funny thing about the game is they're taunting it as like not being Battlefront. Essentially, they're like single players back. Like it's like really weird.
It's like at E3, it's like one of our selling points. No microtransactions.
Yeah, no, literally. The thing that you fucking...
Yeah, fuck you, fuck
yeah,
you.
Yeah, that's literally what they did. They came out, they're like, yo, there's no loot boxes in this game. Can you believe it? It's like, no, you don't get to say that. I don't... Yeah. But I don't know. I want Star Wars to be good again. Part of when I mentioned Force Awakens earlier, part of the reason I was glowing about it is because I like the charisma and charm that movie had, and I want the games to have it too. I want the property to have it too. Now when I see Star Wars merchandise, I'm just like, ugh. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like...
I understand.
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
But that's it. I think that is our story of EA, Star Wars.
I was gonna make a Disney's Star Wars, Disney's EA's Star Wars, but I was like, that's just like the Red Letter Media joke. The Disney's Marvel's Avengers Age of Ultron 2, or whatever it is. Oh no, it's right here. Disney's Marvel's Avengers 2 Age of Ultron.
The one thing I think is the most shameless about all this, I'd be remiss if I didn't say it, was that both the reboot and this game have EA's logo in the middle
logo?
of the title. Like, EA is already on the box, and they're still just like Star Wars EA Battlefront. That makes me feel stupid for not thinking about the LucasArts thing earlier, but I just think imagine if every game company did that. Like, you're not Hideo Kojima.
Yeah, exactly. At least EA didn't tank LucasArts. They just dismantled them.
I mean, they dismantled EA Black Box and Visceral and Max's and who else am I forgetting?
Disney dismantled LucasArts.
Oh yeah, Disney.
Yeah, Disney did.
I didn't mean
Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking.
At least Disney didn't tank LucasArts. They were just like throw them away.
I miss LucasArts, but
Yes.
That's it. Anybody got any? Bye.
Why y'all looking at me?
Do you want to plug some stuff?
yeah.
I've already talked too much.
All right, fine.
How's that throat feeling? It's pretty dry.
Thanks for listening.
Mm-hmm.
You can follow us on social media at HotButtonCast. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We have a website, hotbuttoncast.com. Go there, check out some cool Photoshops, and you can get links to our YouTubes and Podbean and iTunes and Spotify and Google Play.
Did you put the Mario commentary up there?
Mario commentary is
Yeah.
up there.
Nice. Check that out. Go there and
Yes.
download that.
Yep.
You should have a raw downloadable file. Is that up there? Just like a file somebody can download,
That's
not
not
through
a
a
bad
podcast
idea.
app.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that.
Yeah,
You can do that through Podbean.
Okay, cool.
I'm pretty sure.
Just in case they want to do it off the computer instead of the
Yeah.
app. Yeah.
I think if you go to Podbean, there's a download link under the player.
Yeah.
And you can download just the MP3 flat
Cool.
out.
Cool. Yeah.
And I think those are the plugs.
Stay tuned for our inevitable loot box episode that will come out 2
After
years from now
Yeah.
when they're made illegal and the Great Loot Box War happens.
Yeah.
Millions dead. I'm sorry.
Sure. I will gladly put my life on the line. Is this before or
For
after?
or
Wait,
against
is this
the-
before or after the Area 51 thing? I'm too old now. I'm so confused.
That's what's really in there, dude. It's just a bunch of loot boxes.
Shit. All right. And with that, we're out.